Joining us now, Democratic Senator Mark Kelly. He, of course, was one of the lawmakers in that video to service members. We'll begin with what we know so far from the Washington Post on the double tap strike. Is this what you were talking about?
Mika, this is the kind of thing we were talking about.
Yes, Mika, this is the kind of thing we were talking about. There's Mike Kelly. He's an insurrectionist. He's, what is he, a seditionist. He's a seditionist. And is he the one that threw gasoline on the dog and set it on fire? Was that him? And yelled, Allahu Akbar? What is it with these people, anyway? Well, a very good happy Wednesday to you, a happy hump day to you, a mailbag day here on the Chris Plante Show. And Michael's already shown me the first mail-in with there's a drawing on the card. It's nice. It's Hillary Clinton drinking a glass of wine because it's Wednesday. And in the Clinton household, we know what that means. It's hump day. Here on the Chris Plante Show, it's mailbag day. So we got a mailbag thing with Hillary Clinton drinking wine. It's the combo opa, as they say at Greek restaurants. That's right. I was out the last couple of days. I'm on antibiotics now, thanks to Big Pharma and the patriarchy. Antibiotics are good, aren't they? They can, even if you're a Democrat, you might need antibiotics for your monkeypox, because I know you've all got monkeypox. Oh, got the pox over there. That's another thing there. Well, a very happy Wednesday. I apologize for being out the last. I was my best girl, and we traveled to Atlanta, Georgia. We flew to Atlanta, Georgia. Spent Thanksgiving with my best girl's side of the family, and a good time was had by all. And they have very nice people and no dumb politics, And there was one in the mix who is clearly, not a MAGA person, but that's okay. You hang out, and he's just fine. He's not a political nut. So he's, he's like a perfectly normal person 99% of the time, and that makes it fine. But I had a nice time with the family, the best girl family in the Atlanta area for the Thanksgiving holiday. Came home, and I don't know if it's airplanes or kids or what, but I got something, I don't want to say tantamount to the Wuhan Red Death. It wasn't really tantamount to the Wuhan Red Death. But I got a little this and a little that going, and sinus-y things. And so went and saw my doctor, great doctor. Saw him actually on Monday. I said, hey, feeling mighty poorly. How about I come in today? And he said, yeah, sure, come on in. So I came in and saw him in about 20 minutes. About 20 minutes later, he's nearby. So that's a good thing. And I got a bunch of antibiotics, and I'm pounding those. And those work. They're real good. I know Democrats, they need them for a lot of different reasons, antibiotics. But that's another discussion for another day. I don't know if you're listening to the news, so I'm happy to be back because there's a lot to talk about. And we have, I mentioned now, it turns out that the jihadi that Joe Biden and the Democrats waved into the country, who shot and killed one young woman serving in the National Guard, West Virginia, shot and wounded a second young man serving in the National Guard, and very severely wounded. Still, the media reports are still clinging to life. And terrible thing. And it turns out, we didn't find out till just this morning, that he was yelling Allahu Akbar, while he was shooting the guardsmen. And the Democrats, they shout Allahu Akbar too. There's a lot of Allahu Akbar. And in fact, there's a story I heard this on the radio this morning. I was unaware of this till I heard it on the radio this morning on the great WMAL in Washington, D.C., which is our nation's capital. The headline is, Dog Killed After Man Douses It in Gasoline, Sets It on Fire in Prince George's County. And Michael Piercy said, you might want to give a trigger warning before you read that story on the radio, because trigger warning, and it's true. Dogs, we like our dogs. We love our dogs because the dogs are friendly. They're not like Democrats in most ways. But dog killed after man douses in gasoline, sets it on fire in Prince George's County. And turns out that the guy, while he was setting the dog on fire, was yelling, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. And see, in reality, he wasn't. He wasn't really yelling Allahu Akbar. But the Democrats would be very upset that you were demonizing Muslims if you said that, because, that's where the Democrats are. They've joined the jihad. They're not on our side. Boy, are they not on our side. Prince George's County Police and Fire Department arson investigation, it qualifies as arson when you douse the dog in gasoline and set it on fire, are looking for a man who intentionally set a dog on fire on Monday evening, right there in the evening, around 6:30 p.m., December 1st. 911, they got a call. It said a man was dousing a dog in gasoline near the intersection of Cross Streets and Pumphrey Drive in District Heights. Others then call in to report a brush fire. That's not a brush. Hang on. Firefighters responded to the scene, and they found that, in fact, a dog was burning, and it appeared to be a pit bull. Where's Michael Vick? Does Michael Vick live in Prince George's County these days? Because, he wasn't very nice to pit bulls. A pit bull weighing about 50 pounds. 50 pounds. The dog did not survive. But it's probably the dog's owner decided that dog ownership was not for him. The County Arson Task Force has taken the case. Seems like an odd one for the Arson Task Force, but I'm kind of old-fashioned. And on Tuesday, News 7 encountered a detective at the scene of the crime looking for evidence at the scene of the crime. I think there's some kind of lyrics in there. So, yeah, it's disturbing. It's alarming, I would agree, that people would do that. I would agree with all that, especially around the holiday season, I don't know. I'm not sure if around the holiday season comes into it, but okay. And, dogs are precious just as well as humans. It's unfortunate, said a woman who lives just steps from where the dog ran to and collapsed. It's a terrible, horrible story. And the thing is about Prince George's County is they're about 100% Democrat, roughly 100% Democrat. It's really not a snowball's chance that it was a Republican that set the 50-pound pit bull on fire after drenching in gasoline. I'm saying you were going to find somebody with a Kamala Harris sticker on their Tesla or whatever it may be. So we've got that going. That's a pretty crazy story. And Allahu Akbar. That means God is greater. Our God is greater than your God. So we've got that going. Also, the Democrats, they're in favor of everything bad. They set dogs on fire, and they shout Allahu Akbar, and they shoot members of the National Guard, and they bring in more people like that because they think it makes them open-minded. But we've got also the Democrats are in favor of Venezuelan drug traffickers. They love Venezuelan drug traffickers. Now, I don't want to exclude drug traffickers from Mexico or from El Salvador or Nicaragua. I don't want to exclude any of the drugs because the Democrats love you too. They will fly down to have lunch with you and enjoy a margarita. They want to date you. They want you to date their daughters. The Democrat Party is not what it used to be. But the Democrats are in favor of drug traffickers coming out of Venezuela. And if you try to blow up the drug trafficking boats, then the Democrats will express great anger with you, contempt for you. They're not on your side. They're on the side of the Venezuelan drug traffickers. And they get they're sticklers for constitutional protections when it comes to people that don't enjoy constitutional protections, like drug traffickers out of Caracas. I like to say Caracas. It's very authentico, like a good sauce, a spicy sauce, very authentico. And the drug traffickers, we have people that are, the news media likes to say, on the ground there. We also have things in the sky there that can, read your newspaper from 20 miles up. But never mind that. The intelligence has it that these boats are loaded up with drugs, narcotics, which then come to the United States and kill lots of Americans by way of fatal drug overdoses. And then there are drug addictions, and then the drug wars and all the money and the guns and all that stuff over the drugs. The Democrats want more of that. You know that by their policies, and their policies create more of that. Now, the Democrats, they want Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of the Department of War. You might know it as the Department of Defense historically. The SecDef or the SecWar. Pete Hegseth, a report, I guess it started in the Washington Post, saying Pete Hegseth was watching the video, the overhead surveillance, saw the boat was hit, the drug trafficking boat was hit, and blowed up by a strike from the sky. And two of the crew members, that is to say drug traffickers, bounced off the boat, and they apparently survived the initial blast. and they swam back, and they were able to cling to the remnants of the drug boat, the drug trafficking boat, the smuggling boat. And then the Navy struck the boat a second time, and they blew up the boat. See, they're supposed to sink the boat and sink the drugs, not just injure it so somebody can go pick up the drugs and then put them on another boat and bring them to the United States. The goal of the mission, the purpose is to sink the drug boats. And this drug boat didn't quite sink, so they struck it a second time. And then Democrats said, wait a minute, 2 of the gang member drug traffickers were still clinging to the boat. You're a murderer. You're a war criminal. You're going to have to go to prison. You're going to have to go on trial. This is the Democrat Party saying this very loudly. And what about the admiral who's in charge of the U.S. Special Operations Command? And he's going to have to go to prison. Everybody's going to have to go to prison because the Democrat Party is a communist death cult that harvests the organs of millions of children that they exterminate because they want to slow the rise of the oceans or something. And now they want our Secretary of Defense, Secretary of War, the 4-star admiral in charge of the U.S. Special Operations Command, they want him put on trial for war crimes and for murder because that's the Democrat Party. They're not on our side. Boy, are they not on our side. Then Pete Hegseth, and they said in the Washington Post or whoever it was reported, yeah, Pete Hegseth was in the National Military Command Center at the Pentagon, and he's watching, and he saw there were 2 survivors, and he said, kill them all. And that's the news reporting. And then Hegseth came out and on camera yesterday said, I wasn't even in the room watching the video when the first strike. He said, I didn't spend hours. This is an hours-long operation. And he said, I wasn't even there, didn't see it, didn't give the order, but nice reporting by you guys. So we got, that is great, just great. Also, Pete Hegseth was at the White House yesterday for the meeting of the cabinet. President Trump likes to have cabinet meetings, unlike Joe Biden. I think he's still looking forward to his first cabinet meeting. Pete Hegseth's nameplate at the cabinet meeting said Secretary of War. Secretary of War. That's good. And said, oh, it's because he's a Nazi. I think that's it. That's it. Right. And there's a typo on the nameplate, but it's like a paper nameplate. Yeah. So it's not really a name. It's not a plaque or anything like that. So, and it says, and there was a typo as Secretary of War because there are 2 S's. And that means Nazis, which are the Socialist Workers' Party of Germany in the 1930s and 40s. But never mind that. My father went and killed a bunch of them. Now, massive fraud by Somali immigrants in Minnesota. I love this headline. Hand GOP political hammer against liberal programs. Well, it's the truth. I guess if the truth is a hammer against the Democrats, then it's, John Lewis, it's a good hammer, good trouble, right? So Minnesota state government employees accused Tim Walz of ignoring fraud warnings. They all told him how much money was being stolen by the hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars. And he shrugged and said, Kalakalaka, Mohammed Jihad. You know, no big deal there. And President Trump, the news media is very angry, says, House Democrat says Trump called garbage, fires back. See, he's referring to Ilhan Omar, and he called her garbage. She's Somali jihadi. She's anti-American. The Democrats applaud anti-Americanism. So we've got that going, too. And General Michael Flynn talking about the Democrats angling for a revolution in the United States of America. Former chief of the Defense Intelligence Agency put in the crosshairs of the Democrat Party to be targeted because not on our side. But President Trump did say, he kind of said that Somalis in the United States, maybe not the best thing for us, maybe not the best fit. And I think an awful lot of people would agree with that. So we've got that. Yeah, the suspected D.C. National Guard shooter shouted Allahu Akbar while firing his gun. That's a clue, not for Democrats because they're resolutely clueless, but isn't that amazing? And a refugee group was warned that the D.C. shooting suspect was spiraling into a mania. And the Democrats said, hey, another voter, let's sign him up. So we got that going. I've got lots and lots of news coming up for you today. We've got illegal aliens running over and killing people all over the United States. Brand new ones, not the old ones. Illegal aliens continue to kill people all over the United States, America. And the Democrats continue to shout you down as a racist if you notice it. Also, the big special election in Tennessee, the Republican won, but the Democrats are declaring victory because of the severe brain damage from which they suffer. Isn't that amazing? Is college worth the cost? Is college worth the cost? And what college grads, this is great stuff, say about the Democrats, and is a four-year college degree worth the money? We're at 888-630-9625. The Democrats are, they heard a report in the Washington Post that two drug traffickers on a go-fast boat, famous for decades now for smuggling large quantities of drugs, fatal poisonous drugs into the United States to kill Americans by literally the hundreds of thousands over the course of years, tens of thousands every year. And the Democrats heard, well, wait a minute. You mean a second bomb was dropped on the drug boat and two of the drug runners were killed? What? Pete Hegseth personally gave the order? And he says he didn't and he wasn't in the room, but never mind that. It's news reporting, Pulitzer Prize-winning news reporting. And pretty amazing, pretty appalling stuff, I've got to say. Now, they want maybe the admiral in charge of the Special Operations Command to be put on trial for what is it? It's not sedition or insurrection like all the Democrats are engaged in. Murder and war crimes, because the guy that we dropped a bomb on died. And here's the thing the Democrats they see two new George Floyds, right? They love George Floyd, the career criminal, junkie, thief, criminal who is a criminal and a junkie. And I just want to reinforce it. And, George Floyd robbed a store run by a legitimate, honest immigrant trying to work hard and make his way in the United States. And the Democrat criminals come along and they rob him. And then he assaulted the police and resisted arrest. And then he died of cardiac failure, according to Minneapolis's Burning, the definitive document on the George Floyd case, in case you haven't watched it on Al Gore's amazing internet. Absolutely free, and it tells you everything you need to know. Remarkable stuff. But Hegseth invoked the fog of war in boat strike. What does that mean? That's the headline at the New York Times. They think people don't know what the term fog of war means, so they want to explain that. And I've got Pete Hegseth coming up for you. I've got the president. I've got more, and these Democrats who are really pro-Venezuelan drug trafficker, Tren de Aragua. If you're Tren de Aragua, they are a trend with you. They love you. They want you to meet their daughters. They really do. Now, Trump derangement syndrome is such a severe affliction that there are Democrats that want to put the Secretary of War in prison for the rest of his life on war crimes and murder charges because they've struck drug smuggling boats. And then the Democrats, they're against stop and frisk. They're very much against stop and frisk. But when it comes to Venezuelan go-fast boats with 4 giant Mercury engines on the back so they can go, 80 miles an hour smuggling drugs, then they're like, well, you got to stop and, taste the, it's like, Miami Vice. You have to go on the go-fast boat and poke your pocket knife in there and then stick your pinky finger there and rub it on your gums in front of your front teeth and say, that's cocaine. And then you can drop a bomb on it. Because they're big believers in due process for international drug cartels that murder tens of thousands every year. The Democrats think, well, they're down with that. Is that the turn of phrase, Michael? Down with that? I think they're down with that. All right, I've got a bunch coming up on the people at Panhandler Broadcasting System suckling on the taxpayer teat. Pete Hegseth faces deepening scrutiny from Congress over Caribbean boat strikes. Right. Pete Hegseth barely squeaked through a grueling Senate confirmation process to become Secretary of Defense earlier this year. Now he's Secretary of War. Facing lawmakers wary of the Fox News Channel host and skeptical of his capacity, temperament, and fitness for the job. Well, tell us what you really think, Panhandler Broadcasting System. It's good to be a Democrat because, and I'm sorry, who was Joe Biden's Secretary of Defense? Secretary of Defense for Joe Biden? Who was his Secretary of Transportation? What is the? All right, let's take a phone call now, Michael, because I know there are great people, great Americans hanging on the line, and we have a Coast Guard veteran calling in about drug trafficking boats in the Caribbean. They smuggle in the Pacific Ocean too. They bring the drugs here to make money, become billionaires, and to kill as many people as possible. And they have friends in the leadership of the Democrat Party and in the rank and file of the Democrat Party. They're pro-crime, pro-fatal drugs, pro-drug overdose. They're pro-Tren de Aragua, the Venezuelan gang. They're pro-Nicolás Maduro, the guy who stole the election down there. Democrats like that. That's what they really like about it. Let's take a phone call, Michael. Let's go to Michael calling from St. Louis, Missouri. Miguel, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Muy buenos dias, Chris. Good morning, good morning.
Welcome.
Thanks for taking my call.
You betcha.
So, yeah, I had the benefit and the honor of working in the Coast Guard for 30 years, and part of my job was counter-migrant, counter-drug. I worked East Coast, West Coast, and the Caribbean as well. I look back on the time when I was given a smuggler's boat to use as a red team operation against the good guys day and night, multi-agency, multi-nation, and a lot of the lessons I learned. And I look at what's happened back and I say, wow, that's not what I would look at if I was an investigator for this. And I'd like to bring up about 5 points that I think that those who are looking into this really should pay attention to. The first variable I look at is the deadliness of the cargo. With 450 kilograms of fentanyl, the product on the boat had enough drugs to kill 225 million people. Now, to put that in perspective, that's 1,600 Hiroshima nuclear blasts in Japan. They killed. This would be the equivalent of 1,600 Hiroshimas. That said, if we were a Japanese nation in 1945 and we stopped the Indianapolis, the Navy vessel carrying in the core for what was called Little Boy, and we sunk the Indianapolis and the core floated free, they would look to double tap that core, not the survivors. And that's the mentality of the counter drug op. You got to stop the deadly cargo, not the people. So what I do know is the packaging for those drugs, 70 to 8% of them will float back to the surface. And oftentimes smugglers will keep go-fast boats on standby, even the narco subs, to go retrieve those packages. They're so valuable to their mission. The other thing I wanted to talk about is the doctrine right now under GIADF is that there's zero recovery doctrine. It's the basic premise that no drug cartels should be able to pick up their products. And then the two really confounding issues are these. When you talk about survivors, when they think they see survivors, they must know this. If you vaporize fentanyl, DEA says you probably have 1 to 30 seconds not to pass out. You would pass out and you would probably die quickly thereafter. So if you're in a fireball full of fentanyl and it's been vaporized and you're breathing that in, you're probably not going to live more than a few minutes at best. Secondly, oftentimes, not every time, but oftentimes, smugglers are found to have personal flotation devices on board for their crew or their coxswains. If they had an inflatable horseshoe type, the more modern type, they could be wearing those and they'd pop back to the surface within a few seconds, because if they hit about 1 to 2 feet of water, if they go down that far, they'll self-inflate and come back up. So my questions would be, if you're assuming they're survivors, are you assuming there wasn't fentanyl or drugs on board when they got vaporized? And secondly, if you see bodies in the water, and even if they give off a heat characteristics, if you're using FLIR, they could be recently killed and they're floating on the surface because their automatic life jacket brought them to the surface. So there's so many assumptions in the line of logic that the mainstream media is presenting right now. It's inverted, if you ask me. And again, it goes back to it's it's not the perps, it's the product. It's the product.
Right.
And that's so important to keep in mind for everybody going forward. Don't let the mainstream media flip this around and make it about the victims.
The victims,
and
you're right. And they're describing them as the drug traffickers who are caught up in the war on drugs, who are killing tens of thousands a year of Americans, sometimes more than 100,000 Americans a year. Again, a number greater than were killed at Hiroshima, 100,000 fatal drug overdoses. And I like you're talking about the technologies that our military has and the forward-looking infrared radar that will show a heat signature if the person is living. And you're right that the target is the drugs. And now the individuals that are transporting the drugs, they're the bad guys, and they found themselves in a bad place that day because they're international drug traffickers, and the United States of America has made it clear very much out loud, President Trump has, that we're going to blow you up, and that means that you likely will be killed because you're an international drug trafficker. And the Democrats immediately start making excuses for everyone involved, and they become allies to the drug traffickers because they're the Democrat Party. But I like your a lot of points. As you said, you had 5 major points. And the zero recovery. Now, I'm guessing you were a captain. You don't have to give away information you don't want to. But I'm guessing in the Coast Guard you must have been a captain 30 years in, and you're running operations like this. And you're very well informed on the subject, and I'm glad that you called in. The zero recovery, that is, that when the drugs are packaged up, and whether they got them in something the size of a briefcase or a bale of hay, they know they're transporting them across water. So they seal them up in plastic, and they seal them up, right? So they're effectively waterproof. The bales are, right?
Oh, absolutely. And you have to also figure in context the amount of volume that the bad guys have lost. These guys are totally desperate to make a load work, right? At this point, I guess a dozen of these go-fasts have been taken out. These guys are super desperate to make a load work, so you bet they'd look to reclaim any loads that are left behind. So right. It ratchets up the need for them to recover their own product. So again, since 2013, fentanyl has taken more than 500,000 American lives. That dwarfs U.S. combat deaths. So I mean, where's the real argument? When is that going to emerge? The fog of war is the immediate fog of war. Poor Pete Hegseth.
Right.
You know, they're talking about joint agency, and I think the Coast Guard knows a lot more about identifying survivors and FLIR, and probability of survival is a mathematical computation. And again, if you're breathing in vaporized fentanyl, you're done. There's no way you're going to live through that. So it's my best guess, my educated guess, that what may have been seen in any follow-up video from a drone or whatever, they might have seen a human form, but the probability of those people being alive is to say so is far-fetched at best.
The Democrats.
We all saw the fireball. We all know they were carrying drugs. It's that immediate vaporization of those drugs that would have probably killed those coxswains and crew, no doubt. But if they floated back to the surface, that's who knows. You know, it's not likely. And I won't even mention the shark potential in the warm Caribbean in September. I can tell you when we sometimes go out there and pick up Dominicans and Haitians. If we couldn't sit them all in the helicopter, people left behind, oh gosh, we've seen it. I don't even want to say it, but they come around pretty quick. And if you're injured and bloody, boy, I'll tell you, if the fentanyl didn't kill you, the blast didn't kill you, you know, and you're on the surface, it's for them to make this case, it's super, super weak, and it's just desperate. Yeah. And Mark Kelly should know better.
The sharks, you're saying that the sharks will they're a factor in this as well.
Oh, the Caribbean is it's deadly that way. If you're in the water, if you're part of let's say,
and you're bleeding,
sometimes we have to get migrants who ended up in the water, and it's not pretty.
Yeah,
I'll just say that.
And you said, what was the weight you gave on the drugs on this boat? Say 225 pounds. Is that what you said?
Let me go ahead and back up to my notes here. Give me a second. 450 kilograms of fentanyl. All right, enough for 225 million lethal doses.
That's a lot.
And these are the kind of numbers that should be leading the news, not kind of deep buried. So Chris Plant show on day 7 can, kind of come up with it.
Right.
A caller. This needs to be put up front. And again, If we were the Japanese government and they did sink the USS Indianapolis, it was too late, though. They dropped their core load out there and were able to use the bomb effectively.
Right.
But if that package was afloat and sealed in the South China Sea, you can bet the Japanese would go after that product, and they wouldn't give a rat's ass about the sailors clinging to it or anything like that.
Yeah.
It's the product, not the perps, period.
Yeah, that's right.
Period.
Yeah, that's right. Period. As Joe Biden would say when he sees an ellipsis in the teleprompter. Yeah. He likes to
It's
say
deadly serious business, and they're making a clown show of all of this.
Yeah, they're the left, Michael. They're not on our side. They and honestly, you show me an enemy of the United States of America, an enemy of civilization, and I'll show you an organization that has an ally in the Democrat Party in the United States.
That's totally unfortunate. It's terrible.
It is. It is totally unfortunate, and it is terrible. Michael, any final thought?
Yeah, I'll send you. I've done some computations. I'll go ahead and send it to you, and you can do what you want with it. I don't care if you post it, but I'm hoping to help to bolster the reasons why this happened. And again, like they said in the fog of war, that the media has bulldozed a priority push for what they want to be discussed, and it's the long discussion points. These are the long points to make to get an adequate discussion out there for the American public to hear both sides.
Yeah.
But it's ridiculous, the concentration of fire, so to speak, that the media is putting on the survivability issue.
Right.
Anybody in the DEA, anybody who's done the research knows if you inhale vaporized fentanyl or even cocaine, you're toast. It doesn't matter. You're not going to live. So a pickup would be unnecessary.
Well, and if you're on a 40-foot boat that just got hit by an American musician dropped from either a drone or a naval aircraft, then you're probably not having a good day either. Michael, a great call. I'm very glad you called in. Thank you very much. 30 years, United States Coast Guard. I'm saluting you.
I'm saluting back, Chris. Thank you for all you do.
Wonderful. Thanks, Michael. Great stuff. It's better to be on Team America. I like Team America. We're the good guys. The Democrat Party, they're not with us anymore. They're with the illegal aliens that are killing people and drunk driving crashes in California. They're with the bad guys. They're not with us. They're with Trende Aragua. They're with MS-13. Democrat senators fly to other countries to sit down and have lunch with MS-13 members who we know beat their baby mamas. Our gang members are engaged in human trafficking, and Democrat senators bowed to them with furrowed brow, very concerned. The Democrat Party. I've got audio for you on this topic coming up. Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of War, and Democrats saying truly remarkable things, especially after listening to Michael calling in from St. Louis, having spent 30 years in the United States Coast Guard. You know, Democrat Senator Chris Van Hollen, who went to have lunch with the MS-13 wife beater. He beats the pregnant wife. Chris Van Hollen loves him, wants to hand over his daughter, or his son, maybe in his case. But Chris Van Hollen, he was on television over the weekend saying, oh, sure, Hegseth may be experiencing the fog of war. He says that doesn't change the fact this was an extrajudicial killing amounting to murder or a war crime. Murder, war crime. So he wants our guys put on trial for murder and for war crimes because drug traffickers were blown up on boats laden with drugs, go-fast boats, and the people at, lefty media, they've got, like ABC, family of Colombian fishermen killed in U.S. boat. It's a U.S. boat strike. Files complaint alleging he was murdered. Well, Chris Van Hollen's with you. So it's kind of like being in a shootout with the police, but you're a major international drug trafficker. You're Tony Montana, Scarface, great movie. And Tony Montana was blown up trying to smuggle drugs into the United States. And the Democrats are crying that the drug traffickers, they have one, they say, his mother said he was just a Colombian fisherman. Yeah, what do you think he told his mother he's doing for a living? You people are not bright people. You're really not. You shouldn't be allowed to vote or fly commercial. Certainly not own firearms if you're a registered Democrat. TDS is real. All right, let's take a phone call, Michael. Let's go to Dave, calling from Warrenton, Virginia. Dave, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Hey, Chris, how are you?
Hey, Dave, I'm very well, thank you.
Hey, long-time listener here.
Welcome.
I wanted to make a point. I don't know if it's been made before, but during the Obama years, and this was going back to about 2012, he did a number of double taps in the Middle East that killed between 500 and 600 civilians, including scores of children there. And this was reported in the New York Times, the Washington Post, et cetera, et cetera. And then later, if you remember Biden after the Afghanistan withdrawal and the bombing, they did a missile strike on a Afghani family there that they assumed were terrorists. I think they killed 15, including 7 children. And there was no hue and cry from the press and from the politicians and our military leaders and Congress at that time about double taps or civilian casualties. And what we're talking about today is narco-terrorists and no children and no civilians. And yet the hypocrisy is just flagrant. And so that's the point I wanted to make. And I don't know if that's been discussed here or brought up on your television show.
Not yet. I'm glad that you called in because this is the most democratic form of media on planet Earth. It's the most wonderful. And you're right, Barack Obama, you may remember he also killed Anwar al-Awlaki. You remember this? Who was a jihadi, but he was an American citizen. And then in a second strike, Barack Obama fired after Anwar al-Awlaki, an American citizen who had rights as a U.S. citizen, even though he was a jihadi. A lot of Democrats are jihadis these days. He went back and killed his 16-year-old son in a separate strike, who was also a U.S. citizen, hadn't really been established as a jihadi, but he was working on it. And Barack Obama got away with murder all over the place. And, Dave, you're saying that the study showed killed 500-plus civilians in these strikes. The Democrats don't care.